What's up, guys? It's your boy Justin, back with another fantasy book review. Today we're reviewing the Dungeons and Dragons book, Dragons of Winter Night, which is the second book in the Dragonlance Chronicles trilogy, written by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. Right? I think Margaret Weiss is the writer, and Tracy Hickman was just game developer for TSR, which was the company that published Dungeons and Dragons back in the 80s, which this book originally published in April of 1985. Right. So yeah, this book is 395 pages long. Um, with some illustrations, not a lot. Mostly just for the cover, for the start of the chapters, right? Unlike with the last book. So this book takes place during the winter, which is great for this time of year where I like to read fantasy novels. And I like to read fantasy novels during the winter months. So having a fantasy book actually take place during the winter is great for me. So this book takes place like a couple months after the events of the first novel. Tanis and the companions found a place for the refugees to live in in a dwarven mountain city, where to buy refuge for said refugees, they had to go on a quest for a legendary hammer called the Hammer of Karsus, which was used to forge the Dragonlance that they had to leave with the dwarves, which really angered our boy Sturm, right? Or there's Sturm right there with Lorana and Tasselhoff. Right. So the our characters are like basically guilt tripped into going on a hopeless journey by the council that runs that takes care of the refugees, right? Where they're forced to journey to the seaport city of Tarsus the Beautiful, not knowing that the city is landlocked. It's no longer like surrounded by ocean like it was before the Cataclysm, right? And they go there only for the city to be attacked by the Dragon High Lord, which is this time, is riding a blue dragon called Sky, and is called by her army the Dark Lady, right? So what happens is that the companions are separated, right? You have Tanis, Rassilin, Karaman, Tika. Tika go on like one journey, right? And you have the other group is Lorana becomes the leader of the second group. The runaway elf princess becomes the leader of the second group, right? Which she has Sturm Brightblade with her, Tasselhoff and Flint Fireforge, and also Pharos Ironfell, the blacksmith from the first book, is back with a silver arm. Totally forgot about him. Right? And both characters go on adventures where where they thanks to our boy Taz the Kender, who stole magic glasses of true seeing, read a book where he discovered the dragon orbs, which were made by mages long ago that have the ability to control and summon dragons, but they're also very dangerous, right? So our two groups split up. One are trapped behind enemy lines, having to deal with elven elven race relations gone wrong, where like you have 3 tribes of elves living on an island called Urgoth, almost having a civil war with each other. They also go through this, on their quest to get one of the dragon orbs, they get trapped in a dream where all of them face their worst nightmares, but also Kitiara, the half-sister of Karaman and Rassilin, finally shows up, right? And like each of our characters die except for Rassilin, who, making a deal with an unknown party, becomes a black mage and like single-handedly fights like a green dragon, right, and wins the dragon orb, which was pretty cool. So our other characters, right, Lorena and their group, off-screen fight a dragon high lord in some like icy mountain keep where they fight a dragon high lord and his dragon and walrus men, whatever the fuck those are, right, and take the dragon orb and take it to the Knights of Solamnia, right, which is the Knight Order Stern belongs to. But there's trouble when he pissed off one of the rising stars of the Knights of Solamnia, and he almost gets exiled like his father did, right? Or his father didn't get into exile. I can't remember. Right. I think his father sent him and his mother away. Right. No, he was never disgraced. Right. Yeah, so like you have that going on where you have like all political infighting, intrigue going on between in the Sturm's Knights Order, right? Yeah, so there's also a siege at the end of the battle, and one of the characters we fought died in the last book comes back, and one of our beloved characters dies at the end of the book, and there's a funeral for him, which very weird to end a book on a funeral, right? Which has probably happened before, but I don't know. So what did I think about this book? Oh boy. Not as much action as in the first book. Newer characters kind of sideline the older characters, and there was a lot of I was very confused by stuff that happened in the beginning of the book, where like you have like the new dragon high lord, the bad guy, talking with his dragon. I guess they they wanted us to think he was a guy, but he turned out to be a girl. I'm not going to spoil her identity, but you can pretty much figure it out. So, like, yeah, I was a little confused about that, because I thought his name was Lord Arrakis, but turns out, like, that's a different character, who's probably the leader of the dragon armies, right? So there are a lot of pointless drama in this book. You have, like, love triangles are back, right? Romances that did not have a lot of time to bloom become big deals or whatever, which is like, oh my god. I'm not a huge fan of romance. Like, they skipped over action scenes and battles in this book, but like, let's have like romance BS. This is why I don't read like books. I generally don't read books by like, by female writers, because the stuff they like, appeals to like female readers. But like, I'm a male. I like action, questing, adventure. Not there is that in this book, but it kind of like also like it kind of gets not sidelined, but like a lot of focus on drama, on like melodrama and like romance stuff, which I feel like didn't need to be. Well, why do we need to have more romance, romances that didn't lead to nothing? Like, oh my god! Like, especially there's like a romance between Sturm and this elf princess, right? That like, what purpose was that again? Other than to, I guess they explained away that how all of our characters could share the one dream, right? Because she gave him like a magic item or whatever that was only supposed to link him and her, but apparently linked him. But she didn't even. I don't even remember her being in the fucking dream. Which that whole dream sequence. That was the best part of the book, was like the stuff that happened at the beginning, and then like the second half of the book, there's no action until the last 20 pages, right? Where you have this intricate plan that Lorena comes up with, right? Using the dragon orb and the dragon lances. They not off screen actually. Well, off screen they forged the dragon lances, but on screen they did find the means to forge the dragon lances, right? But overall, it's a thing where I liked the book, but there was a lot of stuff I was not a fan of, right? Yeah, like wrestling, how they handled wrestling in the book, man, was like. Wrestling, who's like one of my favorite characters, who got like a trilogy of his own, apparently. I looked up, like, he got his own series of books, right? Yeah, they kind of did him dirty. Like, at first, like, he becomes all powerful, right? And becomes like a nicer person in the dream, right? And then he like leaves his brother to die, and like gloats over, how does it feel to be the weak one now, brother? Knowing that it's all a dream, and then he's going to be back to normal when the dream ends. He still had the glow. Like, what the fuck? That was dumb. But overall, I like the book. In some ways, it's not as good as the first book, but the whole when they go to Sylvanesti and they're caught in this dream world, that was cool. That was good. Right. That was something that was better than stuff in the other books. But it was like the rest of the book. Yeah, I don't know, man. They skipped over a lot of stuff, like a lot of cool stuff I would have liked to see happen on screen. They skipped over it, and it's not like with the Hammer of Karsus. Okay, maybe that would get turned into like a spin-off book or whatever, right? Maybe even the Lorena and them venturing over the getting the Dragon Orb, maybe that would be put in a spin-off book, but like obviously there was not going to be a spin-off book for like the fucking battles they skipped, right? And I get this book, they have to keep it at 400 pages, so they had to skip some of the battles for time, but still, man, like there was a lot of pointless shit in the book that they kept for either comedy reasons or romance reasons, like all this bullshit with the gnomes, right? That took precedence over fucking battles and shit. Fuck off. That sucked. So, 6. So, fuck it. 6 out of 10. Still good, but fuck that. So yeah. So we're gonna vote for our next. We're gonna let you guys vote for the next book review. The choices are Troll Slayer, which is the first book in the Gotrek and Felix omnibus, which is a Warhammer fantasy novel, series, and the first book in the Vampire Hunter D omnibus, right? And the third option is fuck it, Patrick Rothfuss' Wise Man's Fears, which is the sequel to Name of the Wind, which I did like a review trashing that book. Still a good book, but it has its problems, right? Like the simpering, The simping shit sucked in that book, which there's simping in this book as well, from Tanis to Kitiara, right? Yeah, so that's going to be the choices for the next book review. So I'll let you guys vote on that. Peace. We'll just put this here.